Hi all, it's Robin, and welcome back to my channel. This is my first reading vlog, so I'm just gonna keep track of basically what I read during the week and my bookish life. This week came with what probably is gonna be the biggest disappointment of 2025. Well, for reading anyway. I hope it's the biggest disappointment for 2025. Nothing's tops this one, but Onyx Storm. I dragged myself through this. I was not compelled to pick it back up every time I put it down, and I was full expecting this to be a 5-star read. I'm kind of generously giving us 3. The big thing is, nothing happened. In this entire book, nothing happened. We went random places, met a bunch of rude people that don't seem to understand how politics works, and landed back exactly where we started. We were just filler questioning, but we kept going to these other governments to, negotiate terms, come up with treaties, normal government things. And I get that no one likes Navarre. They brought that upon themselves. But does no government in this world understand how negotiations work? It was so weird because everything was just, I walk into a room and then I'm going to make some melodramatic statement and do something really strange and force you to leave. Rinse and repeat. I mean, first one, chopping off people's heads. Then we had weird party games of death and interrogate people to prove that I'm smart and you're dumb. And just none of it made any sense. Nothing made any sense. I was just kept being like, am I missing something? Because, okay, how does politics work on any of these governments if this is how they do basic negotiation introductions? And why is every single one of them insane? It just didn't make any sense. I don't know. It was so strange. And the stuff between like our main core group, that was still enjoyable to read. Hello. This is my old man Wilbur. He's ancient. Yeah. And grumpy. So yeah, we had just the core group. When it was just scenes with them, it was fine. And I could feel some of the nostalgia from the original. And the baby cat is upsetting the old man cat. But I would have honestly DNF'd it if it was any other series. And I contemplated it. I really did about halfway through. I was like, is this even worth it? This is the problem child. His name is Sid. It was really disappointing. I forced myself through to the end, and it did get better towards the end. Honestly, I felt like it could have started at page 400, because I feel like that's kind of where we originally left off. And everything before that, even though sure we met Adarna's family, learned that those dragons are jerks. Great. Nothing mattered. Nothing mattered. And then we ended more or less exactly how we ended last time, with that same cliffhanger, just with slightly higher stakes. So yeah, that was, for something I was expecting to be 5 stars, that was not 5 stars. I honestly am not sure if I even care to read the next one. We'll see when it comes out. I probably still end up doing it, but we'll see. My other main read this week was The Stone Witch of Florence, which was a book club pick, and this was surprisingly really fun. I was not expecting this to be a comedy because this is set height of the plague, Florence. We have a witch, I think her name was Generva, I wasn't sure how it was pronounced, who had been banished, who was brought back to solve a mystery and maybe stop the plague with her magical powers. And that all sounds like very, and just based on the cover, literary, maybe some grim darkness. No, this was Monty Python and the Holy Grail. There was so much wry, weird humor and a slight, like, sarcastic note to everything, especially because people are just dropping like flies. So you'd have conversations where people are like, well, did you ask them to go? No, they died yesterday. What about that guy? No, he died this morning. Well, what about that guy? No, he died 2 minutes ago. I have no one to send. Everyone's dead. And that conversation just kept happening. And it actually felt appropriate because it was one of those things where if you lived in a situation where 1/3 of the population lives and the other 2/3 are dropping like flies in a matter of days, you would probably get kind of like, well, oh, well. And that's how it felt. Well, at the same time, there was this kind of zany mystery going on. Zany was, I think, kind of the theme, where someone was stealing all the relics from the churches in Florence. So the Inquisitor wanted to know who, by the way, was an olive oil salesman, because he's the only person they could find to be the Inquisitor, because everyone else is dead. To try to find someone to help solve the mystery, and maybe if the relics are returned to their wonderful cases in their chapels, God will be happy and save them from the plague. So our main girl, she gets pulled back in because they're like, you're immune to the plague, you should solve this. And she's like, I guess. And it was really cool because she uses stones as magic, and this is all based on actual beliefs from the time period. This was intensely researched, and the author is actually a jewelry historian and gemologist, so everything is like super accurate, but with this Monty Python, Wes Anderson kookiness. And the final mystery was just silly. It was silly, it was funny, and it made it really, it was just an enjoyable read. Not the highest quality writing of all time, but if you just want something to just kind of like an enjoyable afternoon, Stone Witch of Florence. It's an enjoyable afternoon. So I also do a lot of audiobooks because I work from home. So I listened to The Alienist by Caleb Carr, which has been on my TBR for a really long time. And I know it was a show on TNT with Dakota Fanning, but I never saw it. So maybe I'll have to go back and watch that. It's gotta be streaming somewhere. Everything's streaming somewhere. But it was Victorian New York detective fiction, but with, the reason it's called The Alienist is because that's the old word for psychologist. So it's like early psychology, really early forensics, the fact that no one in the police department is for reform like that, because using fingerprints to solve crimes, unthinkable. That kind of thing. And a tenacious woman who's determined to be a detective, a newspaper reporter who's like, I don't know why I'm involved. It was really it was good. It's only 4 stars for me. It was, I think there was a pacing issue in the middle. It was an interesting mystery. It was cool how they used like the of the time science to solve it, even though it's a little kooky to us today, but it's of its time. And there was weird cameos. So Teddy Roosevelt's actually a character in the book because he's the police commissioner of the day. And random people like Comstock from the Comstock Act would just like pop up and you're like, oh, I know who you are. Why are you in this novel? But yeah, it was good. It was just, I don't know if I'd read the next one. I also listened to, and this was just it randomly popped up on my feed read, which was The Battered Body Beneath the Flagstones and Other Victorian Scandals by Michelle Moran. It's basically just like ripped from the newspaper headlines, but none of like the big name stuff. So we didn't have any like Jack the Ripper kind of things, no big stuff. It was the common people crimes. Things with actors, husbands offing their wives. Some weird mysteries of like someone who got on a train and they didn't show up for 21 years later and had no idea what happened in the time period that she was missing because she thought it was the same day. And just random snippets. Actually, I felt like if you were listening to a podcast, if it had been filmed in like 1883. So that was entertaining. Those are the only ones I read this week. I did start Summer Queen by Elizabeth Chadwick, but I'm not really far into it, so we'll see how that goes. That's about Eleanor of Aquitaine, and she's really interesting from history. And I'm not sure what book I'm going to start next. I'm thinking The Courting of Bristol Keats, because my Alcred edition is really pretty. We did pick for Book Club I Run. Our next theme for March is historical. So anything historical fantasy with romance. And we picked The Winter Sea by Susan Kearley, which has been on my TBR for a long time. So just to see how that goes. And non-reading book news. If you are a fan of the Reading Glasses podcast, or you just want a fun book journal, this finally came out, the No Pressure Book Journal. And it's just, besides being a non-numbered huge amount of books, which is great because most of the time it's, you can read 5 books a month. And I'm like, I read more than 5 books a month. It also comes with all sorts of little essays and stuff that come from the podcast of how to get out of a reading slump, how to dump a book that you don't like, how to figure out what kind of books you like and what kind of books you don't like, so you're picking out things that you really want to read. And it's just cute. I also went down the rabbit hole because I discovered the whole magical readathon that Book Roast does on YouTube. I'd never heard of it before until they like sideline mentioned it in the podcast, and I was like, what's that? So I had to look, and oh boy did I go down a rabbit hole, because it's exactly the kind of thing I love, which is basically Dungeons and Dragons and reading. Yeah, so I had to join in to Adventures in Aldea. So this is like the map that she has, and as you read, you go on like the quest and you do the thing, and it's a whole backstory of the worlds, and I built a character, and I'm into it. So this looks like it's gonna be a ton of fun, and it's really just up my alley because I love role-playing games and I love books. So those two combined will be really fun. I'm gonna try to get my friends in real life to join me because I think it would be fun. But yeah, I think that's all in my reading life at the moment. And until next time, happy reading.